45. So if you want to start taking your seats, and we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'll go ahead and introduce Denise as soon as I see her back here. Well, good afternoon and welcome back from lunch. I'm Maria Brosnan and I'm one of the I'm on the advisory board. And on behalf of the advisory board, I want to welcome all of you. There you go. Welcome all of you back and all of our participants at our remote sites to our first breakout session. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our speaker, Denise Armstrong. Denise joined Big Sky Senior Services as the executive director in October 2009. Previously, she worked in the marketing field for banks and credit unions. Denise served on the senior, is that better? Denise served on the Senior Helping Hands Board of Directors for 15 years and the Prevention of Elder Abuse Board for 10 years. She also chaired a committee of volunteers in 1998 to create the original training kit for the prevention of elder abuse. A Montana native born and raised in Billings, Denise has 2 daughters and a husband, Jeff. She graduated from Montana State University, Billings in 1996 with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. The title of her presentation is Preventing Elder Abuse, Tools to Protect and Report. Please help me in welcoming Denise Armstrong.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Those in the back, can you hear me okay? All right, great. Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and such an honor to be able to present in front of you. And I can't think of a better place to be as a presenter for 2 reasons. One is to have IT people here to set up my laptop, my speaker. Anything goes wrong, I know they're back there to help that. But more importantly, to have a room full of nurses. If anything happens to me, you're going to help me, right? So you're probably wondering, how in the world did she come out of banking into this job? Actually, I was in banking for 30 years. So I started when I was 10, just in case you're doing the calculations there. And the only thing I can say to you is be careful what you ask for. We're all sitting around in our offices going, gee, only if I had this, gee, only if I had this and this situation. And all of a sudden, things happened, and now I'm in this position, and I couldn't be happier. I always wanted to be in a job where I could make a difference in people's lives, and I've truly found my niche. As a matter of fact, I was asked just to be the interim director when they're in the process of finding a new executive director when the previous director retired. And my board kept saying, oh, Denise, this is you. And I said, oh, it's not me, it's not me. And so after about a month, I went, I'm hooked. I can't, this is just wonderful. I liked going out in the community and meeting with all of my previous banking and credit union friends, and they all say, oh, you work for a nonprofit? How fun. And I say, you know, it is fun, but it's work. And one of the phenomena that are sort of finally hitting the world is running a nonprofit is just like running a for-profit business. Really, you have your same financial statements, you have the same checks and balances. The only difference being is in a nonprofit, well, let's say the for-profit world, you've got these consumers and people that are paying for the fees that help you provide the services. In a nonprofit world, the people that you're serving typically don't have the resources to pay you for those services. So we've got to go out through grants, fundraising, and all kinds of trickeries, or not trickeries, but creative methods to try to bring money in. Not trickeries, that was a bad word to use right now. Yeah, original, thank you. So there's the difference. And so anybody that says that to me, I'm quick to point out, let me just tell you the difference, but I am enjoying it. We're with Big Sky Senior Services, And our goal is to help senior citizens to remain in their homes for as long as possible, independent, safe, and free from abuse. And I'm happy to announce that we're currently helping an average of 200 senior citizens and adults with disabilities within the Yellowstone. We go out to, we do reach Yellowstone, Carbon County, and Stillwater County, most of our clients in this area. The way we do this is through 3 programs, and many of you are familiar with the Senior Helping Hands program. That's our home health care. And we do the homemaking and the nursing, and pretty much do whatever it takes to keep somebody living in their home. Now, you've all been in situations where you've had a senior in your life that's been living independently, doing very, very well, and maybe a fall, or maybe just shakiness, or something has got them to that point where they just need some assistance, maybe with laundry, shopping, meal preparation. They're not Medicare, Medicaid qualified, they're not ready for a nursing home, they just need the assistance, and that's where we step in. We're currently helping about 105 clients into that program, averaging about 850 hours per month. Now, there are several services in this area that do what we do. The difference being, as a nonprofit, we receive funding, and we're able to provide these services to seniors who would not be able to afford to pay full price. You know, the average price is $20, $25 an hour in this area. What we do is we offer them a cost-sharing program. So based on their income, they may pay anywhere from even $0 to $3.60, $7.20, $10 an hour. And that's the difference with us. And I know we get a lot of referrals from all of you in this room, from social workers that know that these people they're sending home may not qualify for that Medicare and Medicaid service, but they need help. And I have a wonderful, amazing team of staff members that sitting right here that go out into the homes, and like I said, we average about $850 an hour. Our other claim to fame on that is, as you know, if people were to go into a nursing home under Medicare and Medicaid, it would cost an average of $5,000 to $6,000 a month. Okay, we can keep our seniors living in their homes for as little, on average, of $400 a month. That includes all of our administrative costs and everything. So we're pretty proud of that. We have about 10% of our seniors are over the age of 90. Yeah, and we've been helping them. We've helped one client for the last 25 years. So we're pretty proud. We'd establish relationships with them. In many cases, we are the eyes and ears. They typically do not have any other family members around, unfortunately. And you all know from living in Montana, this rural area, my 2 daughters are prime examples. They grew up in Billings, went to school in Billings, went to college in Montana State University and University of Montana, but they had to go elsewhere to get the jobs. So I think a lot of us are typical of that generation. A lot of us baby boomers had children, and so a lot of the parents, the families are left at home. It's not unfrequent that we'll get a phone call from, you know, Susie from California, and what can you do to help my mom? They come into town, and overnight they see that the parents went from functioning just fine to needing some assistance, and so they reach out. I'm going to skip the middle of prevention, but go to the Friends Volunteer Program. That's where we offer the support and companionship to homebound seniors. This is done through volunteer efforts, where somebody will go in on a regular basis and visit with them, take them shopping, or call them. A lot of the seniors that live at home are isolated, and depression can set in very, very quickly, and this helps with that portion of it. The one I'm going to be focusing on today is the Prevention of Elder Abuse program. And in that program, we provide basically 3 forms of service. We have a case manager that will go out and respond to an average of about 30 referrals per month on elder abuse. Yes, folks, elder abuse is prevalent in all of our backyards, and especially in Montana, and I'll tell you why. After we perform the investigation of that referral, we work very closely with Adult Protective Services, because if it does involve any kind of major financial exploitation or in need of law enforcement, we turn it over to Adult Protective Services, who in turn comes to us because of our representative payee program. And what that is we manage money for about 50 clients that are on usually SSI, Social Security, SSDI, some VA as well, and they've just not able to manage their money any longer. As a matter of fact, in some cases, we are the reason why they are not homeless. Because when we take over managing their money, we make sure their rent's paid, utilities are paid, medical bills are paid, and then the remaining amount that they get coming to them goes out in the form of cash on a weekly basis. And most of these people have been financially exploited by you-know-who, family members. So that's what we do, and I'm going to go into that a little bit more in just a few minutes. So, what is elder abuse? According to Montana law, it's the infliction of physical or mental injury or the deprivation of food, shelter, clothing, or services necessary to maintain the physical or mental health of an older person or persons with a developmental disability with lawful authority. So what kinds of abuse are there? Physical abuse. I think we all pretty much know what that is. Signs of physical abuse could be bruises, scars, scratches, black eyes, and I'm sure many of you have seen this in your caring for people that come into emergency rooms and things like that. Then there's neglect. And neglect kind of branches off into two different types. First of all, self-neglect. And I would say that about half of the cases that we get referrals on are due to self-neglect. We do a training, a video training that you're going to see in a little bit for what we call our gatekeepers. And those are utility workers, any Meals on Wheels, or anybody that goes into the home and visits with a senior, we'll train them on what to look for and who to call. And we'll often get a phone call from those MDU workers saying, I just went in to shut off the electricity for this person because their bill hasn't been paid, and there's a lot of signs of self-neglect there. And that's just where they their failure to provide goods or services to avoid serious threat to their physical or mental health. What typically happens here, and you can probably all identify with this, is somebody's been living at home independently and they've been able to do it very, very well on their own, which we all want and we all encourage. Some things start to happen, they start to decline, and rather than reaching out, because what's their biggest fear if they reach out? Nursing home. They are feary that they might go into a nursing home. So they just sort of isolate in. There's hoarding that takes place, very poor hygiene. They're just not aware of the services that are available out there. So we'll link them up with the various services, including Meals on Wheels and LEAP, and help them with whatever we can do to keep them living in their homes, because that's our goal too. And we're happy to say that we are able to do that for a majority of our clients. Some of them, and the flip of the coin on that one too is people who say, I don't want your services, I choose to live like this. I've been like this. That's a tough one to swallow. It's very difficult when you see the hygiene situation. You know, there was a call recently and went out and this woman had cockroaches crawling all over her house. But she said, I don't care. This is the way I choose to live. That's a hard one to swallow. There's also the other side of that is neglect. And that's when you've got a caregiver involved or somebody involved who fails to perform their duties to take care of that elderly person. This we see a lot with caregiver burnout. That's when you've got mom living at home with daughter. I got a phone call on Christmas Eve, just this last year, Christmas Eve day, and I'm thinking about all the stuff I had to get ready for all my family members coming over, and poor pitiful me, you know. And I get a call from a lady, because my phone's after hours numbers, and she said, I want my daughter to stop yelling at me. Would you make her stop? And I said, okay. Is she hitting you? No, she's not hitting me. She just yells at me. She yells at me all the time. And it's so bad that when she takes me to the grocery store and she's yelling at me, people in the store tell her to stop yelling at me. And so what I spent on the phone, so that definitely is, you know, not neglect, more abuse than anything. So we discussed some ideas as to how she could handle this, because there wasn't any sign of physical abuse. She just wanted the daughter. And the daughter, ironically, wasn't aware that that screaming and yelling at her mother was considered abuse. So sometimes in all of our professions, all we got to say to that person is that is abuse and it's not acceptable. And that awareness sometimes will stop early on. They live with these people, they don't realize what kind of a mental, emotional impact this has on them. So anyway, so I talked to her about some tools that she could do to help tune out the daughter. I said, where is she at right now? She's in the bedroom. And I said, okay, so what can you do to tune her out? I have hearing aids, and I just turned them off. And I said, that is a great idea. Just turn those hearing aids on. So we did send somebody out to do a welfare check on her after Christmas. And apparently the daughter, again, recognized it and was taking some steps to stop it. What I just talked about was the psychological and emotional abuse. Sexual abuse, anything non-consensual is considered sexual abuse. So this is the biggie, financial exploitation. It's the illegal, unethical exploitation by using funds, property, or other assets of a vulnerable adult or for personal gain, irrespective of detriment to the vulnerable adult. Typically, we see theft of income. A typical scenario, mom is elderly, she's losing her sight. She gets her Social Security check on the 3rd of the month. All of a sudden, family members, children, come and pick mom up and say, I'm going to take you to the bank so you can withdraw your money, and I'm going to take you grocery shopping. Guess where they take mom instead? Back home with maybe a handful of groceries, but they've got all of mom's cash. This happens. It's unfortunate, but it does happen. Another one is theft of assets. And that's involving power of attorneys, real estate, and identity theft. So, Montana, why are we at risk? We're a small state, we look out for one another. The reason is currently 14% of our population is 65 years of age or older. But here's the scary part. By 2025, it's projected that 25% of our population will be 65 years or older. 1 in 4 of us will be over that 65 years of age. That puts us all at risk for elder abuse and financial exploitation. And guess who knows this better than any of us? The scammers and the perpetrators out there. And they know the rural nature of our state. They know there's a lot of seniors that are out there. This is very common for these scammers to make telemarketing calls, trying to sell them everything in the world. And if you can imagine, here's this little old lady who's sitting at home by herself, nobody to talk to, but the TV, somebody calls her, and what does she want to do? Talk. She talks, and they know that, and they're talking, and how are you, and how are things going, and they want to be their best friend. Next thing, they're asking her for her checking account number, because they've got a great product that's going to help her. Then, the next step is, her name gets sold to what's called a sucker list. It's a horrible name. It just makes me cringe. But there are people who make a lot of money off selling her name because she responded to their request. So guess what else? It just keeps moving, and pretty soon her phone is ringing off the hook, and she's got people calling her daily. That's not unusual in this state. Here's some statistics to share. And I'm sorry that I only have the 2010 statistics. We don't have 2011 in. The nice thing is we have them for Montana, Yellowstone County, as well as the nation. So in 2010, there were 5,511 reported cases. Keep in mind, at the bottom, it's estimated that only 1 in 5 cases are reported. So if you take 5,000 times 4, you've got about 20,000 cases of elder abuse in 2010. Of those, about 25% were in Yellowstone County. Makes sense, we're the largest county. Nationwide that same year, about 9.5% of the total population ages 65 years or better were confronted by elder abuse of some type. One in every 10 of our senior citizens are being faced with elder abuse of some sort. So how does that break down? General abuse is about 15% in Montana, and that would mean your self-neglect, physical, sexual abuse, and not self-neglect, the physical and sexual abuse. And that's about 18% nationwide. Financial exploitation, which, as I said, is pretty big in our community, 20% in the state, about 12% in the nation, and neglect 65% in our state and 60% in the nation. So we're following the national trends. Keep in mind, this is only going to continue to grow. So who are these victims? They're typically women. Typically women, because women outlive the men. They lose their longtime spouse, best friend, the person that's paid their bills, person that's made all their decisions their whole life, and overnight they're getting phone calls from somebody who wants to be their best friend. Who are the perpetrators? This is the sad part. 33% are adult children. 22% are other family members. That would be the grandsons, the nieces, the nephews. We got a call the other day from a lady who just said, you know, I know how to manage my money, but I can't say no to my niece. She keeps asking me for money, and my daughter says to say no to her because my daughter tells me she's using the money for drugs. She said, but I can't say no to her. I need you guys to manage my money so you can be the ones that have control over it and that I don't have any control over that decision. 11% are spouses, partners. 16% are strangers, and that would be your home repair people, things like that. And 90% of the perpetrators are known by the victims. So who are these victims? Well, they tend to be socially, physically isolated, not necessarily wealthy. The average income for the people, the 50 people that we manage money for, their average monthly Social Security check is around $800–900. Can you imagine living off that? That's pretty common. They tend to be advanced age, and they're vulnerable due to their cognitive, physical, or sensory impairment. Probably one of the biggest issues that we find out there is the visual impairment, the macular degeneration that leads to falls, as you heard from Dr. Cortez earlier. But what happens is they are getting the stacks and stacks of mail, and they can't read it. And rather than reach out and ask for help, they just let the mail stack up. Or another bigger problem is they're answering that phone, they're saying yes to somebody, giving away their information, and next thing you know, there's some things coming out of their account's overdrawn, they get a call from the bank, panic sets in, and so they're looking for help at that point. So that's typically what we see in the victims. So, red flags for all of you working with these senior citizens: personality changes. And this can be from somebody, you know, dementia, and I'm not an expert, Alzheimer's, all of this can be tied into these personality changes. But when there's sudden physical changes, when this person who's very well dressed overnight goes to somebody who is not showering, not bathing, not able to carry on a conversation. But here's what's really scary: a new or existing companion, and they're nervous or afraid, and they won't permit the senior to speak for themselves. I sat next to a gentleman on the airplane just last week, and he made it known to me that he had a lot of money right away, which was good. Can you write me a check? I didn't ask. But he said he lived in a wealthy neighborhood, and that his neighbor across the street lost his wife probably about 10 years ago. And the gentleman's very healthy, he's in his mid-70s. And he said he's got a new partner in his life, a female partner, that he is paying an average of $40,000 a year to be his friend. And I said, whoa, a few red flags going on there. And I said, well, have you gone over to introduce yourself to this new friend? And he said, well, every time I walk over there, she just darts away and goes to the backyard. I said, okay, do you have a relationship with his family? Yes, I do. I said, I recommend you give that family a call, make sure they're aware of this new friend, and you know, to do some investigation from there on. And I'll talk about this a little bit later, but this happens quite a bit. It's called the sweetheart scam. So, going back to the red flags: confusion about transactions, withdrawals, unable to recall transactions. Like, I think somebody called me today, and I think I gave somebody my checking account number, but I can't remember. Property is transferred. And here's another thing: the level of care they're receiving is inconsistent with their resources. Let's talk about the perpetrators. We've talked about them a little bit. They have close access to the victim, tend to be younger, tend to be a relative, especially an adult child. 50% are male. Family members, caregivers, home repair contractors, neighbors, medical professionals, door-to-door salesmen, and the insurance agents. So what's happening here? These are the types of fraud, scams, and schemes that we see going on. Of course, the coercion, trickery, intimidation, lottery schemes, contests, promises of making a lot of money. The scam artists like to establish ongoing relationships. But the bottom line is, victims are afraid to report because of embarrassment and shame. That's the biggest problem that we face. And right now, this is the most popular one going on out there. The Grandma, It's Me, I Need Help. Y'all familiar with this one? I have the best story to share with you. My mother is 78, very healthy. She golfs, she swims, she bowls. She took up bowling at age 70. Her hair is as dark as mine, and it's all naturally dark. It's not fair at all. And very healthy, but she's got a sister that is 88 and lives alone. She lost her husband several years ago. And she got this call about, Grandma, it's me, I need help. And she said, really, who is this? And they said, you know, it's me, Grandma, calling. And they never say their name. They say, well, is this Susie? Yeah, it's Susie. I need help. They say they're in jail, they need bail money. Please don't call Mom and Dad because I don't want them to know I'm in this situation. And can you send me a money order, cashier's check for X amount of dollars to get me out? Don't tell anybody. By the way, the bank employees have been trained on this, and they're trying to catch it the best they can. Sometimes the seniors are relentless. They're still going to the money order. They're still sending money out. But my Aunt Mary, says to this person, well, I got one thing to say to you. You got yourself into this situation, you get yourself out of this situation. So isn't that great? Yay, Aunt Mary. So I would encourage you to communicate this scam to everybody you know, because it's prevalent, and they're really making some big money here in Montana. It's been very successful. And then, of course, here's the lottery one. Congratulations, you've won. But in order to claim your prize, you must go down and get a money order and mail us a money order for this large amount of money to cover the shipping and handling, blah, blah, blah. And it's just not true. Now, you can all go out to this website, consumerprotection.mt.gov, and register for their emails, and they will send out the latest, greatest scam that's happening in the state. Also, if you know somebody that's been hit by this situation, which again, a lot of shame and embarrassment going on with this kind of situation. They feel ashamed they fell for it. But encourage them to call the Office of Consumer Protection listed on here. It's really important they're able to keep track of these, try to trace it down the best they can. So why aren't they reporting when this happens? Well, oftentimes they're dependent on the perpetrator. Sometimes they live with them. They're dependent on them for a particular aspect. They take them to the grocery store. They take them to the bank for whatever. And they're afraid to lose that help. Worst thing is when their loved one is an abuser. And that's a very difficult one. Due to fear, you're afraid they're going to be placed in a nursing home, or worse yet, abandonment. A lot of denial that goes on, a lot of self-blame. They believe nothing can be done about it. They're ashamed, they're embarrassed. Sweetheart scam is another big scam going on in this community. Please tell everybody you know about this scam. It targets men, elderly men that have a lot of money. These men are not, they're well educated, they're wealthy, but they are very lonely. And typically what happens is they go out at night to either the Walmart or the Costco's or wherever they can to get out of that house because they can't stand the walls and the quietness. They go out, and these women are trained to find these men and just get into a casual conversation with them. And all of a sudden they're telling them their stories about, oh, my husband did this, he left me with nothing, I have nothing, blah, blah, blah. They want to come to the rescue. They come in, they buy them brand new furniture. Of course, they want everything in the perpetrator's name, buy them new washers and dryers, mink coats, $700 shoes. Yeah. We had somebody in our office reporting this sweetheart scam to us, and he said, she's got at least 10 pairs of $700 shoes in her closet. Do you have a pair of $700 shoes? And I thought, I don't think so. No. And 6 mink furs. It is very prevalent. Plus, they train other women to do the same. So the sweetheart scam is, okay, so they go out and they go to the local furniture store. They talk them into paying cash for this nice new furniture because her ex-husband took all of her furniture. And they have them delivered to their home, but they don't unpack those boxes because guess what they do? They take them back to the furniture store and get cash for them. We have men in this community, and I'm not kidding you, very well educated, that have lost thousands of dollars to these scams. And they also make them believe they're going to marry them. But they don't have any physical contact with them other than a hug. And how they do that, I don't know, but it works. So it's awful. I was at Walmart one night about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and just making a mad dash for something. And this elderly man walked up to me and struck up a conversation with me just because, you know, talking about, gee, how you doing? And boy, isn't it a nice day, that kind of thing. And I thought, ooh, this is how this happens. And so be cautious of that. If you have parents or you know people, elderly men that are lonely, I mean, visit with them about this scam. It's very prevalent. And the only way to stop it is through education and awareness. So when people know, they get that call, this is what's going on. So where's the law enforcement in this whole deal? They're very active and they are doing everything they can to get involved. But here's some of the challenges they face. Did the victim consent to transfer the funds or assets? And if they did consent, were they of sound mind to make that decision? Those are difficult to prove. And does the victim have capacity or competence to testify? Can theft charges be proven beyond a reasonable doubt? The biggest challenge is when it involves family members, do we ever want our kids to go to jail? No. There was a local situation at a financial institution here in Billings. And the girl, I knew her. She was a sweet, kind person. And she'd basically gone out and cleaned out all of her grandma and grandfather's life savings. Okay, she lived way beyond her means. And before they caught it, she got put her name on their account to gain access to their money, and then cleaned them out. So it can happen, and the grandparents did not want to press charges at all. They were pretty much forced to by the bank in order to get restitution for what she had stolen. So, and I think she served 30 days in jail, and she's on probation or something like that. So, why are you important, and what can you do? I can't emphasize this enough, that if you're managers, is to train your staff on elder abuse, what to look for, and help with a protocol as to what they can do if they suspect. Now, what we did in the banks is we created a special training kit for the bank employees because tellers were seeing this all the time. They didn't know how to respond to it. The perpetrator would come in and accompany this person at the teller line, you know, and you'll see an example of it. I'm going to show a video here. And they just said, I don't know what to do. I know this person's being taken advantage of. Sit down and talk about a protocol that if your employee sees the situation, questions it. First of all, you're all mandatory reporters in the nursing field, in the medical field. I'm a mandatory reporter, and what that means is if you have cause to report, you need to make that call to Adult Protective Services. Nursing homes, you know, it's your ombudsman, and for those others, it's either us or Adult Protective Services. So talk about that protocol process. Dr. Cortez told me that on her website, they actually have a chart that you could follow that makes determination as to whether or not you need to call Adult Protective Services. So sort of like a, can't think of the name. A what? Algorithm, yeah. Sort of a scientific approach to making that call. So at this point, I'd like to show you the video. It's an interesting video. I know it's after lunch, and I'll do my best to keep you guys awake here.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Drake, and it's my honor to host the following short video presented to you by Big Sky Senior Services. Big Sky Senior Services is a not-for-profit organization here in Montana whose sole purpose is to serve and care for our local senior citizens, to help them remain living in their homes, independent, safe, and free from abuse. Big Sky Senior Services accomplishes this through 3 programs. The first,
I'm going to skip ahead because you've already heard all this.
Senior citizen is at risk. So, let's say you're a utility installer and you're checking a senior lady's home. Take a minute to knock on her door and say hello. Pay attention to what you see. If she seems to have poor hygiene or is not wearing suitable clothing for the weather, or seems a bit confused, upset, or disoriented, she could possibly be a victim of neglect. In fact, neglect takes many forms. Tragically, sometimes our seniors neglect their own care. Self-neglect can include behaviors such as hoarding, failure to take medications, refusal to seek medical treatment, poor hygiene, dehydration, poor eating habits, wearing unsuitable clothing, confusion, or the inability to take care of their own home. If you notice these questionable behaviors or see them decline over time, simply call the Prevention of Elder Abuse hotline and report it. At the end of this video, you will be given a business card with the hotline number on it. Please just place it in your wallet or purse so it's handy, just in case. Or another example, let's say you're a Meals on Wheels volunteer and you deliver food to the same seniors every week. You know that one of your seniors lives with a hired caregiver. Keep an eye out for anything unusual like bruises, weight loss, hair loss, a change in their normal routine, or a house that's in disarray or disrepair. This is a type of caregiver neglect. In fact, the definition of neglect is the unintentional or intentional failing of a caregiver to do their job. And it can include leaving the elder unattended, denying them food or medication, physical abuse such as slapping, punching, hitting, or trying to keep them isolated from other people. Again, take note of anything like that, call the Prevention of Elder Abuse hotline and report it. These types of physical abuse leave visible clues or scars that we can often pick up on. But there are other types of elder abuse that might not be so visible, but are just as painful and heart-wrenching. All of us have contact with seniors. They might be a relative, a member of our church, or our neighbor. Besides paying attention to the situations I mentioned earlier, be on the lookout for emotional or psychological abuse. This type of abuse shows up as humiliation or intimidation, or even possible threats from caregivers, family members, or people posing as friends. If your senior complains about someone threatening or intimidating them, or if you see it happen while you're visiting, contact the Elder Abuse hotline. Listen to your gut. Pay attention to your intuition. We would rather you report it than ignore it. In addition to physical and psychological abuse, another common form of mistreatment is financial exploitation. This is a situation where someone illegally uses or steals an elder's money. This person might be a stranger or a supposed friend or even a family member. As you can imagine, there are hundreds of ways to exploit, manipulate, and coerce vulnerable adults out of their money. And there are new scams popping up every day. There are essentially two types of exploiters. The first type, scam artists, are people the vulnerable adult doesn't know or has ever met. They might be door-to-door salesmen, unethical contractors, or new people who have seemingly just popped up in the elder's life. The second type of exploiters are people who the senior knows, such as acquaintances, supposed friends, money managers, and sadly, family members. Often when the perpetrator is someone the victim knows, he or she may be even more reluctant to report the exploitation. The elder victim may be dependent on the abuser, or the victim may be embarrassed to admit that his or her loved one is an abuser. And as I mentioned earlier in this video, very often the victim may be afraid to report the financial abuse due to fear of further abuse or the possibility they'll be sent to a nursing home, or worse, they'll be abandoned. While bank tellers or credit union managers might have more direct contact with the elders in certain types of financial exploitation situations, we can still pay attention to suspicious activities like contractors who never quite seem to finish the job, family members who move in and seemingly take over, or seniors unexpectedly giving gifts of large amounts of money. We at Big Sky Senior Services believe it's up to all of us to pay attention to our seniors, to be on the lookout for them, to care for them. In this day and age where we hesitate to interfere or get involved, Anonymously reporting suspicious situations can make all the difference to an elder. A call like that could actually save a life. You could save a life. Please, if you suspect one of our treasured senior citizens is at risk in any way, call the Prevention of Elder Abuse at 406-896-9696. Again, once the call is made, a social worker will drop by and check things out. The social worker will gently assess the situation and, if need be, will help the elder to get the appropriate services that he or she needs. And remember, your identity will never be revealed. The Prevention of Elder Abuse program, the first of its kind in the United States, has already assisted hundreds of elderly Montanans. Its continued success lies in our hands. As gatekeepers, people who pay attention and report suspicious situations, we can be the eyes and ears of our elderly. We can make a huge impact in their lives. Listen to your intuition and then make that call. You could save a life.
Okay, this video is available for any of you that would like to show it to your office, your staff, wherever you work. We also will go out and Becky will do the presentations for you if you'd like that. We can get it done in like half hour, this video plus some handouts. So, or if you'd like to borrow it, we have 3 copies that you're allowed to take and borrow. So again, the goal is just to get increased awareness for elder abuse. And I think that video is short and sweet and kind of tells it all. So let's go back here. Oops, dang. Didn't want to do that. Then go back to the beginning. Hear it all over again. Okay, so suspicious banking activity. Oh, this is not going to comply. I do it the old-fashioned way. Okay. So what we train bank employees on, which is also good information for all of you, is if there's any kind of unusual banking activity going on, habits change, frequent ATM withdrawals. I got a call from a local credit union, and they had a lady that came in, and she came in every day. She used to come in. They always have habits to go into their financial institution the same day, same time, right? Every week. You all know people like that. And they get to know that one particular teller, and they'll wait in line for hours to see that one particular teller. Well, this particular customer came in one day and got the usual amount. An hour later, she came in and got, I think it was $1,000. Came back in an hour later and got another $1,000. So they all became suspicious and said, okay, what are you doing with the money? What are your plans? And that's one thing I always encourage people to do is ask questions. What are your plans for all that money? What are your plans for what's going on here? And she said, well, what happened is the last $1,000 I withdrew, I went outside and the wind was blowing and it just blew all up into the air and it's all gone. So now I got to come back and get some more. Guess who was in her life? The daughter. So, send out the social worker to go visit them and put a stop to that. But we also talk to clients a lot about setting up joint accounts. Now, there's some benefits to having somebody else on the account, as long as it's somebody you can trust. But we also get those phone calls that say, I got one just a few weeks ago, my mom put my brother's name on her account because she was in the hospital and he was the only one that was living here. And now all of her money is gone. Her CDs have been cashed in. She's absolutely broke. What can I do? I said, was his name on the accounts as a joint owner? She said, yes. I said, there's probably nothing we can do. So there's the danger in joint ownership on an account. Bank employees are pretty good about training people about the pros and cons. Powers of attorney are really being used and abused. And we had a client that liked everybody to be his best friend. And he would share way too much information. Well, this one lady felt sorry for him because he had no other family members in his life. And so she took him under her wing, and all of a sudden, they show this document that she has become his power of attorney. and I was having a meeting with this gentleman and her one day. I looked at her and said, boy, do you know the consequences of being a power of attorney and not, you know, using his assets properly or spending money? And she said, no. I said, it's a felony. She goes, oh, guess what? Within 2 weeks, she had her name removed, revoked from that power of attorney. So be careful on that. Bottom line, report if you're suspicious. And the thing is, when you do make that call, as was said in the video, your name is not going to be used in that referral. When we get the referral, we never disclose who called us. The first thing they ask, well, who sent you here? We don't disclose that. Also, when appropriate, call law enforcement. As I said before, we're good for the early detection, the things that you just sort of concerned about, and we love being able to curtail anything we're seeing. Adult Protective Services will step in if it's bigger, and also call local law enforcement. And get as much information as you possibly can. The person's name, social security number, all that information is very helpful. And a lot of people aren't aware of what Adult Protective Services is. It's just like Child Protective Services. It's a state-funded organization. We are very fortunate here in Yellowstone County. We have a wonderful team of people. And they work with local law enforcement. And they're helping several people, pulling them out of wherever they're at into a better state. This is the confidentiality of reporting. The only time that your name will be used, I hate to say this, is the last sentence of the second paragraph. This exemption from liability does not apply if the reporter is in fact the perpetrator of the abuse. So for your seniors, tell them never do business with unlicensed contractors, get caller ID. We never answer our phone at home if I don't know whose number it is that's calling us, and that actually backfired on me. My cousin was coming to see me. I hadn't seen him in years, and he kept calling and calling and calling, not leaving a message, and I finally looked at the area code, and I picked it up. I said, Lonnie, I never answer calls that I don't know. He goes, okay. So encourage all of your seniors to get caller ID and screen every call. Don't answer the phone call unless they know who it is. Also, it's always good to have online access. Let's say if you have a parent living in California, you're here, gain online access to review their statements so you can catch this stuff early on. Always shred their checks, which brings me to an announcement that part of our prevention activity, because June is National Elder Abuse Awareness Month, and June 15th is the actual day of recognition. I encourage you all to wear purple on that day. We are going to have a free shred-a-thon on June 9th. That's the same day as the Strawberry Festival. From 9 a.m. to noon, there's information on our table out there about that free shred-a-thon. And every year we have seniors that go through and clean out all that stuff they've been hanging on to for years, their old check blanks, their old statements, and they get to watch it being shredded. And it's quite an exciting experience. So this is our third year doing that. We also say never leave any outgoing mail in a mailbox. Remember, it used to be easy to hang your outgoing mail on a paper. Can't do that anymore. They're finding it. The other thing I want to talk about is that we've got a conference next Thursday. The information is out there on elder abuse, and it's going to be much more detailed. We've got local people that are authorities. We've got law enforcement, county attorneys that are all going to come and talk about elder abuse and what it looks like, and how to, also the speaker next door, Dr. Eaton, is going to be a presenter as well. It's only $35 for the day, and we've been approved for social work credits, 7 CEU credits. We're working on it for the nurses. So somebody came to the conference last year and got approval, and we don't know who it was for the nursing, so we don't think there's going to be a problem in getting that, but can't guarantee it right now. So, for more information, this is our website, BigSkySeniorServices.com. It's .org, sorry. .org, BigSkySeniorServices.org. We have a very active website. When you click on the Prevention of Elder Abuse link, it'll take you in another website called mtelderAbusePrevention.org. You don't have to know that because you'll just click right into it, with a lot of information about elder abuse, what to do, who to call. There's even an interactive map that you can click on for Adult Protective Services, so no matter where you live in the state of Montana, you'll be able to call a local Adult Protective Services office. As far as our organization, we are local, and we're the only kind of our we're the only kind of organization of its for the prevention in Montana. So we do some training and outreach around the state. I've traveled around for financial training. We sell that financial institution training kit to banks and credit unions for $199, and they can use it as much as they want. But again, this gatekeeper training is a training that's designed for all of you, and it's available to either borrow or we'll be happy to come in and do the presentation for you. So that ends my presentation today. Looks like you all stayed awake pretty well, so thank you. And I, again, appreciate the opportunity to come and visit with you. Is there time for questions? Yes. Okay, there time for questions? Yes.
What type of situations, or have you run into any with landlord abuse? And how do you handle those?
There have been a few situations with landlords, and luckily I have a new employee that's very skilled in this area. We run intervention as much as we possibly can, and we'll contact that landlord if needed and just visit with them about the situation. Sometimes it's merely getting a call from the Prevention of Elder Abuse office that makes them panic and come clean on the situation. When there was some lady called about a year ago, and there was a lot of flooding going on in her basement during that flooding period, and her landlord, nobody was responding to it, and so I called her landlord, and within an hour or so, somebody was over there. So yes, it is happening, unfortunately. Thank you, good question. Yes? Oops.
Sorry.
Health, go ahead.
Your statistics on who abuses, 33% adult children, 22% other family, etc. What are the statistics on percentage of healthcare workers?
It's not broke down by profession. I don't have that information. Oh. But we are seeing some of it, unfortunately. Whenever we hire caregivers, we always do background checks and make sure that everybody's clean, no felony records, so forth and so on. And most organizations do that, I'm aware of, although the state of Montana does not require you unless you're a licensed agency, which is unfortunate. Some of the bigger cities and states out there, one of our pipe dreams is to have a database, sort of like you do for the child abuse felonies, is to have one for the perpetrators of elder abuse. It is taking a place, but this is probably 1, 2, 3 years out. So you can Google this person and find out if they've ever been accused of any kind of abuse. Because once they hit it, they travel. And in most cases, what seniors, especially in the rural country, are doing is they're hiring people out of the paper because they're so desperate. This rural state, it's a real challenge to reach people that live out, past Red Lodge or, out in the middle of the country. And so they're hiring people out of the paper, and they're not doing the necessary steps to background check on those people. And that's when we're hearing about the kind of abuse that's going on. And then in the nursing homes, there are the ombudsmen that are available there, and you all know about contacting them for any kind of suspicious behavior. More questions?
How far out will you go for training from the Billings area?
We'll go out within, I traveled to Lewistown one time. So 90 miles is good. Yes? Yeah.
I'm a little unclear as to who you're saying to call for assistance. The police, obviously, if it were blatant physical abuse, I would think, or sexual.
Yes.
But as far as caregiver burnout, because I'm in homebound ministry more than, an actual medical setting. So, there's caregiver burnout, and some people may feel like they're being abused, but actually it's just, they're not getting what they want, but they feel like they're being abused. And so is there, you hate to report stuff like that, but yet you don't want to be caught holding that information.
We do get a few phone calls from from seniors that say, I'm being abused, this is the situation, and we just sort of talk them through it, and it's not, you know, it's just a matter of, they're not letting me smoke my cigarettes and drink my beer. I mean, that's an extreme example. Typically the calls that we like to get are the ones where you know there's something going on. So the kind of a pre-screening on your part to say, these are the signs, if I'm seeing some signs of physical abuse, you're concerned about the financial exploitation. Our caregivers that go out into the home are trained to come back and report any kind of suspicious behavior that involves, and typically it's financial exploitation, or if this person is all of a sudden being locked up in the room when they come to help out, those types of things. Your confusion is very understandable, so depending on the degree of the situation, if you know there's financial exploitation going on and it's probably a lot of real estate or money of $10,000 or more, call Adult Protective Services, call local law enforcement. For those minor events that you're just thinking they need a call for somebody to help them out, talk them through it, you can call us too.
So they really don't go into the system if they call you, and you find that there's nothing going on.
Correct, correct.
If you call elderly abuse,
Well,
you're in the system.
Yeah, there is a Adult Protective Services does have a database system. Your name is the caller, reporter is never listed, but the person that they're going out and contacting. But I'll tell you, I would say about 75% of the calls that we get in the office have been referrals through Adult Protective Services at some other point, or they have the case open. Most of the calls they have involvement in. So yes, they are in the system, and the benefit for that is because things resurface. You know, we may be able to stop what's going on, and then maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, they're back. You know, so, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Maybe one more question.
Yes.
This isn't about the abuse part of it. I just saw that it's $400 a month as little as. How do you calibrate how much to charge? Is it according to their income or their?
Yes. Yes, we take a look at their income and we subtract any medical expenses, and then based on that, it's according to the poverty guidelines,
Okay.
the national poverty guidelines. And it says the maximum they would pay for our homemaking services is $18 an hour, $21 for personal care, bathing, that kind of thing. And then the nursing services are $29 an hour. But we prorate it based on their income.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. We're still the lowest in town for homemaking. I mean, the average rate out there is about 25, so. Good questions.
How long is your waiting list?
You know, we don't have a waiting list. For those of you that have worked with us in the past, it's been a constant ongoing issue that we've always, especially for the people that need the cost sharing. And it's unfortunate because we've had some turnover with our clients. They reached a point, they're in a nursing home, or they've passed on, and we've been able to move through that waiting list. Just as of Tuesday, in the first time in 2.5 years I've been there, it's like, we don't have a waiting list. It's like, oh my gosh. It doesn't mean that we can get to somebody right away because we have a limited number of hours, limited number of staff, but we at least make that phone call and reach out to them. And so I know you're all surprised. Whoa, that never happens, because we've had an average waiting list of 3 to 6 months sometimes for people that, you know, cannot afford to pay for their service, and it's so hard, but we only have so much money, as you all know, with a nonprofit. So you like that? I know. Yes.
Is that a statewide fee? I mean, you said like $18 an hour. I mean, you know, because I'm not from this county, but I know when I worked with cleaning houses as a homemaker, people were paying like $8 an hour for the service.
Oh, isn't that nice? That's the going rate for all providers in this area. We surveyed them, and like I said, based on our survey of other same home care providers, it's been an average of $21 to $25 an hour, and ours is $18. Now, if you go out and hire somebody private, this is through an agency, well, that's pretty good. Now, there are clients that receive our services for $8 an hour because of the cost sharing, because of the federal funding and things like that. So, but yeah, average house cleaner right now is, you know, even, you know, independent person is $20 to $25 an hour. So, okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Well,